Okay, everybody, welcome at our sparkling conversation for the week. This week, we are going to look at boundaries and we'll be listening to Amanda Swanepoel. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you so much. So special to be here with you. Today, we are talking about building better boundaries. Doreen Virtue said that boundaries are part of self-care. They are healthy, normal, and necessary. Brene Brown said, when we fail to set boundaries and fail to keep people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. So what are boundaries and why are they so important? A boundary is an invisible line that defines what behaviors are acceptable for a specific individual. So we all have heard, or lots of us have heard about the book Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. And what they summarize, what the book is about, is boundaries, when to say yes, how to say no, and to take control of your life. So we want to take control with our boundaries. Alex Howard says we have 3 basic emotional needs: safety, love, and boundaries. That was interesting when I heard that. Now the question is, how can you identify that you need boundaries? They say that you need to think about the areas of your life where you are experiencing discomfort. So do you constantly feel exhausted? Do you feel uncomfortable around a specific coworker? Do you feel resentful of your mother's intrusions? Each of these problems or challenges or discomforts are telling you that you are lacking boundaries in a specific area of your life. I read a bit on Sharon Martin's summary of boundaries, and she talks about physical boundaries as one, emotional boundaries, spiritual boundaries, financial and mental boundaries, and then boundaries regarding your time. I'm just going to summarize that for us. Physical boundaries tell others how close they can get to you. So what kind of physical touch, if any, is okay, and how much privacy you need, and how to behave in your personal space. So a physical boundary clearly defines that your body and your personal space belongs to you. A good example of a physical boundary will be when someone sits uncomfortably close to you. You can move away or just say, I need a little bit more personal space. Then we look at emotional boundaries. An emotional boundary protects your right to have your own feelings and your own thoughts. Do not have your feelings criticized or invalidated, and not have to take responsibility of other people's feelings. So a good example of an emotional boundary will be, I don't feel comfortable discussing this. Or I feel embarrassed and powerless when you chastise me in front of our kids. The third boundary that we can look at is spiritual or religious boundaries. And this is a boundary that protects your right to believe in what you want, worship as you wish, and practice your spiritual or religious beliefs. So a good example of a spiritual or religious boundary would be when you say, I'm going to take a moment and say a silent prayer before we eat. The fourth boundary that we can look at is financial and material boundaries. Financial and material boundaries protect your financial resources and your possessions. It protects your right to spend your money as you choose and to not give or lend your money or possessions if you don't want to, and your right to be paid by an employer as it was agreed. So a good example of a financial or material boundary would be to say, I'm on a budget, So I brought my lunch from home and I won't be ordering lunch today in the workplace. Or when you say clearly, please don't borrow my car without asking. The fifth one is time boundaries. Now, time boundaries protect how you spend your time. They protect you from agreeing to do things that you don't want to do and having people waste your time. And it also protects you from being overworked. So an example will be, I reserve my evenings for family time. I respond to all work emails first thing in the morning. So to summarize this, there's just one interesting warning that I can give you and a nice tip. A non-negotiable boundary is a deal breaker. It stands for the things that you absolutely must have in order to feel safe. So they usually pertain to safety issues such as physical violence, emotional abuse, drug or alcohol use, fidelity, and life-threatening health issues. So a non-negotiable boundary will be something like an example, Mom, if you don't install a fence around your pool, my children will not be able to come to your house. Or if someone would say, infidelity is a deal breaker for me and I will not continue in this relationship if you cheat on me. So we all have non-negotiable boundaries, but my warning is that we need to be careful that we don't push too many of our boundaries into this category. Because if a non-negotiable boundary is going to have any meaning, you have to be willing to follow through on it. I'm ending with a quote by Henry Cloud that says, boundaries define us. They define what is me and what is not me. A boundary will show me where I end and where someone else begins, leading me to a sense of ownership, knowing what I am on my own and what I'm responsible for, and what gives me freedom. So may your physical, emotional, spiritual, financial boundaries, that invisible line, give you a bit more freedom and even more time to live your life purpose.